now. And so, as I promised, standing by and joining us right now is a man I'm proud to say I've known for quite some time. You know, I loved watching him when he played. I grew up a Packers fan, so, you know, whenever you played the Packers, I hated the Giants. But I love watching you play. And as I said a moment ago, played him arguably one of the best linebacking trios in the history of pro football. Two-time Super Bowl champion, made the all 1980s decade team. You can find him now on Sirius NFL Radio, WFAN. Am I correct? Still on WFAN?
Yeah, and the Believe in Giants podcast, Bob Papa and I do.
Man, you know, and you also understand you're the founder of what, and you got to correct me if I'm wrong, G3 Sports?
Yeah, G3 Sports by Carl Banks. One of my brands is Starter. You know, the Starter brand is mine, so we're rocking and rolling with that. We have a few other brands there, so yeah.
Look at you, man. How you been?
I've been great. You know what? The biggest thing about it, we've known each other for years, but I've never shared a meal with you off your grill. So that's gonna happen.
Not you too.
Happen by this summer.
Yes, not you too.
I sit and watch social media, and I'm like, man, this guy got my mouth watering.
Carl, I'll tell you the truth, man. You got to infiltrate his family. You got to go in and you got to get to know Trish and the kids, because then you can. Hey Trish, can I come get some barbecue? Sure. Then I knock at the door. What are you doing here?
Bro. He ain't never lied, man. I'm telling you, man. But you know, Barrett, I'm gonna tell you a quick story. And I got to know this gentleman because, you know, he covers the Giants, I cover the Eagles, and, you know, going up and down the turnpike, I'd see him and he would see me, and we would acknowledge each other. And then one day I heard him say, "Hey, D-Gun, how you doing?" And I'm thinking, how in the world does he know my name? You know, he's in New York. How does he know my name? And then he told me the story that now correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you were dating somebody from Philadelphia at the time. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And he said he would come down here all the time, so he would check out the local media scene. And I was like, I was honored that he knew I'm like, this Carl Banks. He knows my name, you know?
Yeah.
Carl, he still don't know my name, and I work with him every day.
Hey Carl, you don't want to know what I call Barrett every day, man. You don't want to hear this, man. It ain't pretty. But man, I appreciate you giving us some time because I know you're busy. But man, tell us about these Giants, man. I mean, they start out being one of the surprise talks of the league. They jump out to a 7-2 record, and all of a sudden, they're spiraling downward. They're 1-3-1 over their last 5. What has been the biggest problem with the Giants as we see them over the last 5 games compared to that team that was shocking the world and jumped out to a 7-2 record?
Well, I think it's to understand the Giants is basically to understand the league. It's a league of have and have-nots. I mean, listen, when you have the talent base, you can jump out ahead. And then the have-nots, if you don't make a lot of mistakes and you're fighting in your weight class or punching just slightly above your weight class, you have a chance to win. So those games are on the schedule every year. It just depends on where they fall. The Giants got theirs early on. And then the reality hits that, you know, you are what you started the season as, and you got better coaching. You're going to have some opportunities because the NFL gives every team opportunity. There's a path to victory in every game, because humans play it.
Yep.
A fumble here, there, whatever, you know. So, but this is who they are. No one at the beginning of the year had them having a conversation about, a wild card playoffs. They were just hoping to get a couple games extra in. So, listen, they're going to enjoy it. They'll have an opportunity to win some more games before this is all said and done. But I don't think anybody had expectations of, hey, this thing is going to ride all the way out and we're going to just be on a 8 or 9 game winning streak. But that being said, I do have to say, so I have to get this out of the way because I made a random call to Mike Quick about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. It was in the evening. It was raining. I just said, I need to call and get this off my chest. So I'm going to do it here too because I know you got more Philly Eagle fans watching.
Yeah.
Y'all so good, it's damn disgusting. And, you got to know how much that pains me to say that, but it's disgusting. It's disgusting how good the Philadelphia Eagles are.
They are tough, man. They are tough, man. But
listen, and you know what? I got a problem saying it, but I have no problem acknowledging them dudes is good, man. They so good, it's disgusting. But you know what? This didn't happen overnight. They built this. If you look at some of the acquisitions over the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years by Howie, this is by design. But to my earlier point, the haves and the have-nots in this league. You have the Eagles, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, and you have a few other guys that you can look at from week to week and say you kind of know what's going to happen, right? And you know the problems that they present for their opponents. And then you look at the rest of the league. It's just like, okay, well, it's a revolving door at interior linemen for a lot of teams, or the tackle and the quarterback is only as good as the weapons he has around him. And you know that the weapons around him are not very good. So these are toss-up games that you can end up accumulating 8 or 9 wins when it's all said or done.
Well, that's what it is. The parity in the league is very prevalent, you know. But when I look at, you know, what Dable has done with Daniel Jones, I thought Daniel Jones was so far gone as a quarterback, and he has really taken and maximized his strengths and taken away from his weaknesses and have him playing pretty well, man. From what film I watched on him, he's using his athleticism. He's using Daniel Jones the right way.
Yeah, it's amazing with coaching in today's NFL looks like to a quarterback who plays in this type of game, because, you know, what they were doing with Joe Judge, that offense was back when I played.
Right.
And they've entered the new era of NFL football. They move their quarterback. They allow him to use his skill set. And, you know, if you have a guy that has a relatively high football IQ, and he has some athleticism, can make good decisions, you have something. You know, everybody has this idea of the, you know, our quarterback is not as good. Like, if he's good enough, then understand there's 5 really good quarterbacks in this league, 5 to 8, right? And they ain't being cut by anybody. So what you got is what you got, right? So if you got a guy who can make good decisions with the football, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo got him to the Super Bowl.
Right, exactly.
Right, and they're still not giving him any designation greater than he's a game manager. He just managed to win games for him. So, you know, when it's different from when fans see this game, they have this idea, but the reality is not played out in Madden football. It's played out in real life.
Exactly.
Right? And, you know, a year ago after the playoffs, they thought Jalen Hurts wasn't worth a darn, right? Oh, get rid of him. And, well, even more, but Jalen is a better example. But look at Justin Fields. 5 games into the season, they're like, well, this coach didn't draft him. This GM didn't draft him. They're not married to him. And then you said, well, maybe if they give him something that he can do, it might look a little different, right? So you take and you give Jalen Hurts all the credit in the world because he's worked his craft, right? But the marrying of what he does well to his high football IQ makes him one of the most dangerous football players in the league. And just a year ago, they wanted to throw him in the trash.
Right.
Right, literally, they wanted to throw him in the trash. Oh, he can't throw from the pocket. He can't. Well, damn, he's throwing from the pocket, throwing on the run left, throwing on the run right.
Right.
And making great decisions with the football. So, I mean, what were y'all saying a year ago? Maybe you should say, hey, maybe if he works a little bit at it and they marry this offense to him, which Shanahan does a great job of in San Francisco, of marrying the offense to the skill set of the players and the quarterback. So back to your point, Bear, that's what Joe Judge is doing. Joe Judge and Mike Kafka, both guys, you know, I said Joe Judge. God forgive me. Brian Dable, you know, he had Josh Allen, a guy that everybody wanted to throw away, right? And Mike Kafka is coming from the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. So they know how to marry skill with with skill. So they get it, and their players love it, and they respond to them.
Carl, I look at your Giants offense, especially the last couple of weeks. Saquon hasn't had a 100-yard game in his last 3 games now. If you control him, do you control this Giants offense? I know they've had some problems along the offensive line.
I guess that's the short answer to it.
Okay.
The reason you can control him, there are several things. Interior of their offensive line it wasn't great when they were all healthy, but they were effective. Now that they have a lot of guys in and out, it's hard to develop some type of symmetry with how guys are blocking for you. So to answer your question, yes. The other part of it is when you have one receiver, that's not enough to take an extra guy or 2 extra guys out of the box. So the opponents can say, okay, we're going to walk 8 in here, maybe 9. I think we can hold up on the outside. Let's see what you can do. And until you can get another receiver who can actually get something accomplished without having to scheme it, you'll be able to lighten the box a little bit, and Saquon will have a little bit more of an opportunity. But I think their rushing yards right now is a combination of, him, the quarterback, and Matt Breida, who comes in the game as well. Like, they need to get close to 100 yards no matter who's doing it, or if it's by a combination of stuff, they've got to be able to get that to keep their offense on track.
Wow.
Well, let me ask you from a defensive standpoint. I know this especially, but I mean, you look at the linebacker. Well, now you look at the DNs. Ojulari.
Talk about the linebackers. Because I got a love-hate with that group.
Here we go.
We'll get to them, but okay. I'm looking at Thibodeau and Ojulari. They're the same size as you and Pepper playing linebacker. To me, they're small. I mean, how do you stop a team with our offensive line running against those littler guys, man? I mean, I don't understand, how those guys can hold up.
Well, they got to figure it out, But they have 2 guys on the inside with Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, who are the guys who kind of press the issue in the middle of the defense. But that's the biggest hack going now in the NFL now, because teams were convinced that because it was a quote-unquote passing league, you needed smaller players, quicker players. And the offensive coordinator said, yeah, we're going to stay with 4 wide receivers, so we're going to make you draft personnel for that, but we're going to get some big old jokers in the middle of our offensive line, and we're just going to run down on all these little tiny linebackers. And that's what's happening, because the Giants inside linebackers, I have a love-hate relationship with them, and I see it's the same thing across the league. They're all undersized and undisciplined because they don't know run fits. They're just thinking about the pass. And I'm like, these offensive the offensive coordinators figured it out, like, we're going to make them think that it's a passing league, but we're going to run down on these little cats, so we'll have so much balance in our offense, people won't know what to think.
Absolutely.
And then if you start drafting bigger people, they're going to say, well, we're just going to pass it outside now because, y'all got bigger and slower.
Carl, I remember I first got in the league and I was playing, and I had linebacker. I played against linebacker line. Like, the smallest guy I played was Sam Mills.
Yeah.
But he stuck his helmet right in my chest.
Yeah.
Took every bit of wind out of me, man. They just played the game different. Pat Swilling, big linebackers.
Yeah.
It's just changed so much these days.
But I will tell you this. If I took a Seth Joyner and a Wilbur Marshall and I dropped them in the game today, they would be neck and neck for Defensive Player of the Year.
No question about that. Yeah.
Like those guys, because they fit their style of play, it traveled from whatever to whatever.
Yep.
But like, they would completely obliterate the game today as linebackers.
Oh, no question about that. No question.
Hey, Carl, how is it you guys have Jalen Smith, who walked off the street starting in the middle of your defense, man? What, you couldn't find somebody else?
No, I mean, Jalen is he plays like his hair is on fire. The thing you have to do is point him in the direction of the fire.
Oh, jeez.
Because he'll go 1,000 miles an hour, but his biggest thing, even when he was in Dallas, was just a discipline to be in his run fits. You know, these guys, again, they all want these clean runs and hits, and because it's a passing league, they think. But now that you've got to have some responsibility because offenses have got smarter, and they're going to actually have running plays that you had to go in and you got to have a run fit on, and they just don't like doing that. So, but he's capable. Tate Crowder's another kid that, you know, he was Mr. Irrelevant when he was drafted, and he somehow has figured out how to be a starting linebacker in the league because at the time he could run around, right? But there's a fire, folks. You got to run into it. You get, you know, it's but it's like that around the league. I look at the Eagles linebackers, and if they have good run fits, the guys up front do a great job for them. If they're undisciplined in their run fits, they're wasting Fletcher Cox and Graham and those guys wasting their time because they're doing what they're supposed to do. You run out of the hole, and it's a 15-yard gain, and all you got to do is be right in the hole. You're either going to make the tackle or those guys going to come off a block and make the tackle for no gain or a 1-yard loss. But they don't, you know, it's just a different type of player right now that they just got to get more disciplined about what they do. But I think that's plaguing a lot of teams around the NFL at the inside, I call it the second level linebacker position. They don't know run fits, and they're not disciplined enough to just let the big guys do the job up front, and you'll have a lot of tackles at the end of the game.
Carl, I said the same thing. I said, we have a guy, TJ Edwards. He wasn't drafted, but he activated our linebackers because he showed where guys they were also come up and double team our 3 techniques, and the linebackers would stay at linebacker depth. But instead of him coming down and attacking that and getting a one-on-one block, and you can win off a one-on-one block, they would stay. He activated the linebacker. I say he activated him because they started seeing him going up and attacking a double team. Now guys are free to make plays.
Yep. And that's basic football. It never changes. But you got to have second level linebackers that are willing to do that. And I think they're so used to not having contact that they think they're going to get obliterated. But again, when you got Fletcher Cox or the rookie kid that you guys that's just dominating.
Big Davis,
Big Davis,
like you run up in there, them guys gonna make your job so much easier.
Yep.
You run out of there, it's a 15, 20-yard gain, and everybody's pissed, right? And you're down, you're Velcro to some guy because you were afraid to go step up toward. They make your job easy. Just they're being double teamed. Go just fit in the hole. Watch what happens. Minimal contact at best, and you get a great tackle by either yourself or the defensive lineman.
Hey, Carl, what has more impressed you this season with the Giants? What Daboll has been able to do with the offense, or what Martindale has done with the defense?
Wow, I think it's a combination, but I think it's Daboll with the offense.
Okay.
Because the biggest mystery was Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. And if nothing else, he's able to get consistency out of them. They've coordinated the offensive line and given them a plan that they could have some success with. And so I think and again, they entered 2022 era of football. Last year, they were back in the 1990s, 2000s. And, it's the game evolved so much, and these guys are embracing it. The players are. And so I think it's the offense that made the biggest difference for me.
Okay.
Well,
no disrespect to Wink.
Right.
Because Wink's a wizard. But I just think offensively, they needed to enter this era of NFL football, and they did that with this offensive group.
How are they able to run an offense like you have one of the highest paid wide receivers has not pissed a drop for you guys, Kenny Golladay.
Yeah,
you got guys. Darius Slayton's your best guy right now, but I mean you're able to go out there with Seals, Hodgkins, and James, and run effective offense, man.
Yeah.
How is he able to do that at this point?
That's the most impressive part, right? So they get every single player prepared. And they're going to be limited to their skill set. And there's sometimes you're limited to scheming your whole offense, which if you don't have anybody who can flip the field for you, you could be, 8-10 plays and not even at midfield, and you started at the 20.
Right.
You got to scheme everything. It's true. When you got to scheme your offense, your pass plays, and you don't have a guy who can just win, your focus is, hey, just catch the ball and let's get 3, 5 yards, 7 yards. But that's what those guys can do. And Darius Slayton he's got his confidence back that he struggled with at the end of last year and part of this year. But he's a guy who can flip the field for you, but that's just one. Right. Mm-hmm. And if you can't protect the quarterback long enough for him to, run some of his deep routes, then that's going to be a challenge. So I just think that this coaching staff has done a really good job of just getting guys prepared offensively, and they lose guys. Another guy steps in and he knows what his role is, and they don't miss a beat.
Well, let's flip that to Wink Martindale now. He's got Adoree Jackson out. He's got Holmes out. Right now, Fabian Moreau is your best corner.
Yeah.
How?
Listen, this is today's NFL, man. You get your guys ready and prepared, and they know what's expected of them. They go out and they produce. Now, the other thing too, Wink is interesting because he's from Buddy and Rex's school of thought. If you can block them all, if you can block what I'm bringing and still get the ball to your guy, hats off to you. But I'm going to bring so many people. I'm going to dictate a few things that you can do, and I can put a favor in Monroe out there, right? Or Cordell Flott. I'm going to put them out there, and they ain't got to cover for long if I do my job up front. Now the thing is, they've struggled a little bit up front. Now that they got Ojulari back, they're bringing more pressure. But that is the philosophy. He's always had that. He did it in Baltimore a lot. But you're also limited to the available talent, right? There's so much you can do to have the desired effect. And then there are going to be times where they don't hold up and you're going to give up some big plays. And they've done that, but they do a better job in the red area. It's where they can, when the field shrinks, they can do a little more or cover a little better. So they are, I love Wink, because I grew up in that Nick Saban and Bill Belichick style of defense, and I understand all schemes, but for what they do now is perfect for today's NFL.
Hey, Carl, got to ask you before we let you go. New ownership, new direction comes in management-wise, new head coach, new defensive coordinator, and James Bradberry is one of the odd men out with the Giants. He comes down here in a one-year contract. All of a sudden, he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. Your thoughts on him being cast aside by the Giants and resurrecting himself down here?
Yeah, I don't know if he was cast aside. I think a lot of people hated to see him go. Yeah, but the Giants were in salary cap hell, and I will venture to say, if they could have cut the receiver, and kept him, they would have. But cutting the receiver would put them deeper in the hole. Jeez. And so I think they just needed the relief. And they knew what they were letting go, and they knew that they were going to have to rebuild those positions anyway. But I don't think they wanted to let him go. I think they really wanted to keep him. And he's such a good dude too, man. That's one of my favorite guys. But yeah, I mean, you got to make tough decisions when you've made a bunch of bad ones in the past. They come back to haunt you because the guy that you fired just pushed all of that mess in the middle of the floor and say it's up to you to clean it up and make it look like something. So that's why I said, the expectation wasn't to be a Super Bowl contender this year. It was to show improvement. And they've, I think, somehow, in some ways, exceeded expectations in terms of, where you see the direction of this team. But they know they have a ways to go.
Hey, I got one final question before I let you go. I do a pre and post game show with Seth Joyner every week.
Yep.
And you know how Seth is about telling you what he feels, especially when things are going wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I watch football with Seth and I have to slide this way. I'm like, this man about to throw at somebody, man. I just got to give him his space, you know. But my question to you is this: as a radio analyst for Giants game, especially when it's frustrating, how difficult is it for you to be politically correct, knowing who's paying your check, but yet being as honest as you can possibly be about what you're seeing when you watch this thing?
Yeah, so we have a unique situation here in New York. Our ownership tells us that our fans want the truth.
Okay.
But he said, our owner says, just don't make it personal. You can say a guy stunk on a play, but don't call him a name in saying it.
Right.
So, and the other part, the beautiful part about my job, Seth's job, and Mike Quick's job, as guys who played at a very high level and understand this game, we understand how the game is played and how it should be played, meaning the mechanics, right? Take the emotion out of it. And I know I hear Seth, he gets really frustrated because some of the stuff that should be easy, these guys make it so much harder, right? But I think we're appreciated because we're not cheerleaders. Seth is not a cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Quick is not a cheerleader, right? He'll tell you what's going on. And fans appreciate that because if you're listening, we're the eyes to those fans' ears. Right. They want to know what happened, right? They don't want to hear a bunch of nonsense and, dancing around it. They want to know what happened and why it happened. And, if you listen to Mike, if you listen to or watch Seth Joyner, you're going to know exactly what the hell happened.
Yeah.
Right. And he'll tell you why. Both of those guys tell you why it happened the way it happened. Because guy ran the wrong route or he was supposed. It's not like we sit in meetings with coaches, but we know the game at that level.
Right.
And we're not projecting our skill set on someone else. We're looking at the basics of the game. Right. If your quarterback's back foot hit and your wide receiver is not even into his route good, then your wide receiver can't release. He doesn't know how to release. Right. And I just went on for 5 minutes talking about linebacker fits, right?
Right.
And how it works together when you have really good defensive linemen. Teams are afforded to have average linebackers as long as they do what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those are the things we give fans that and I'll be honest, a lot of other analysts don't do that because they're afraid of pissing off the owner and not saying something that is true, right? I don't have fear of that on my job, and I know Seth wouldn't give a damn if they fired him for telling the truth.
Still won't. Still doesn't.
Still doesn't. He don't care.
See what I'm saying? He gonna tell you the truth, and the same with Mike. But I think our fan bases appreciates the honesty because we really want to know. They really want to know what's going on, and they trust us to tell them what's going on.
All right, he is 2-time Super Bowl.
Wait, you got one more question.
No, what? I do?
Ask me how good the Eagles are. Just say, Carl, how good are the Eagles?
Okay, all right, real quick. How good are the Eagles?
They're freaking disgusting. They're so good. Disgustingly good. It's just makes me sick, but they are that good.
Oh, my goodness. All right, you know what? I just want you to take a deep breath.
No, it is what it is, bro. It is what it is. Ain't much you can do. It is what it is.
Hey, man, look, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us today, man.
Barry, you as well,
appreciate it, man. Thank you, man.
He is the one and only Carl Banks, 2-time Super Bowl champion. You can follow him on his Twitter platform. Also follow him on Sirius NFL Radio, WFAN. He is also a radio analyst for Giants broadcast. Great dude. I've gotten to know well over the years, man. And, you talk about insightful, man. I love talking to dudes from old school football, man, because they see the game differently than how we see it today and how it's played. Even you see it differently than how we see it, because you played it back then, back in the mid 90s, on up to the early to mid 2000s compared to what it is now. Right. So, We're running a little bit long. We're going to take a pause for the calls right now. Coming up on the other side of this break is a former colleague, but still a friend, current colleague, still a friend of Barrett Brooks. He is the one and only Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia, who covers the Eagles. That and more coming up on this Friday edition of Sports Take as we see the break one more time. Xander, play that beat, baby. Yo, Xander's sleeping, man.
There we go.
Go for the beers